My name is Brad Schmitz, and I'm originally from Idaho, but I've lived in Alaska. I first went to Alaska about 25 years ago during the summer of 2000. I have a bachelor's degree in social work from Boise State University in my hometown. And the very first time I ever taught English as a second language was for my Social Work 200 class. We had to do volunteer work in the community somewhere. This is back in like 1997 or so. And I went and did volunteer work at the refugee center in town. And I ended up teaching English to a bunch of men from Iraq that were settled in Boise. And it was amazing. I mean, I was a kid that had never been out of the country and didn't know much of diversity and such. But I would sit, and I had a whole classroom in the end of these men from Iraq, and I would point to the floor and say floor, I'd point to the ceiling, we'd say ceiling. And in the end, they didn't have any money to pay me, so they would feed me. I was a hungry college student. And it just started off this really amazing journey that's kind of led me here in a way. Shortly after I graduated from Boise State in 2001, a good friend of mine from my university connected me to a job of teaching English in South Korea. So I was in South Korea, in like July of 04 till February, March of 05, about 20 years ago. And while I was in Korea, I just learned firsthand what a huge market there was for overseas language programs. And before going to Korea, I had lived in Alaska a couple of summers working in tourism. I spent a couple of winters in Fairbanks, Alaska, a summer out on the Yukon River in this little village called Galena. And I just had these amazing experiences and adventures in Alaska. And while in Korea, I learned this huge market at that time, 20 years ago, for ESL programs, right, and overseas language programs for their students. And I really enjoyed my kids that I was teaching at this second school. When I came back to the United States, I just thought, I would love to start a company that would combine outdoor adventure with English as a second language education. In January of 2017, my dear good friend Sam Barney, who's a teacher in Fairbanks, Alaska, we actually started the company as a two-person LLC. We titled it Alaska English Adventures, and we really didn't quite know what we were getting ourselves into. Then March of 2020 happens, which was COVID, which destroyed all tourism. And in June of 20, I was spending time in some English as a second language chat rooms on Facebook, and I saw a post from a teacher in Germany that was looking for middle school kids. She was looking for middle schoolers that speak English, right? That would be pen pals, old-fashioned pen pals with her students. And then along this line, I don't know exactly when it was, but I became friends with a Martha Awidi, who is a teacher at the Shivan Education Center in Nairobi, Kenya. And back then, I was networking and chatting with a lot of teachers around the world and starting to connect them to schools in different places around Alaska. And I really liked Martha. The vibe was really good, and she seemed like a really positive lady, and things were going really well. So we kind of were starting this online friendship. And then last school year, Martha's students then officially became pen pals with students in Homer, Alaska, which is a really beautiful community way on the Kenai Peninsula. It's nicknamed the halibut fishing capital of the world.
My name is Martha Awidi, a teacher at a school known as Sheba Education Center. In Sheba Education Center, we have so many activities. At the moment, we are dealing with pen paling. And through pen paling, I've met with a man known as Brad Schmitz, who introduced me to Homer Middle School. Through that experience, we have done letter writing. And through that, we have managed even to write letters to the marshals who are going to the race in Anchorage, Alaska.
And then about a year ago, I saw a post on a local Anchorage Facebook page from a lady that was a volunteer on the Iditarod Trail. Now, the Iditarod sled dog race is Alaska's epic event. It's regarded as the toughest race on earth. 25 kids from Nairobi, Kenya. I don't know if they were all from Sheba Education Center, I don't know where they came from, but 25 kids from Nairobi, Kenya wrote notes to dog mushers on the race, and then this volunteer, Paula, gave the notes to the mushers at one of the very last checkpoints, kind of way up by Nome at the end of the race. And so I'm kind of the middleman, putting all these things together, the pieces and parts. And a couple of weeks after the race, I got a hold of Paula and I'm asking her, hey, did those notes make it? And she said, yes, they did. And so I then relay the message to Martha in Nairobi, and it just kind of exploded, is what it felt like, kind of hearing her responses on Facebook. She was so excited about learning about Alaska and about the Arctic and sleds and mushers and this whole fun thing. And I was so excited for her. And I thought that it was just like a really, really neat opportunity, for her students. Early June, my daughter Anisha and I went to Fairbanks, Alaska, and spent the night at my buddy Sam's place. And he had an old Iditarod dog sled just sitting in the weeds back behind his house. I took a picture of it and I sent it to Martha and just randomly kind of asked her, hey, would you like to, could you guys build a dog sled at your school over the summer? Martha sent me 2 pictures. One was like a dog handle that the musher holds on the race. And then another one was about maybe 5 or 6 really slim pieces of wood, which would be the base of the sled. And then a picture like a class picture. And I was just like, wow, look at that. I mean, look what's happening over there. It was so exciting for me. So they built their sled. It's been painted. To my understanding, it had wheels of some shape or size on the bottom. And now it had like real harnesses, right, that were used by a dog sled team. So that's all happening. Then some new developments. I was still reaching out because then our goal was to get kids from Sheep Education Center, like 8 kids was the goal, 2 teachers, a caretaker, and tentatively Josephine, the school's administrator, to the 25 Iditarod. And I started reaching out around Alaska all summer, like going Guns of the Navarone back in June, and everybody loved it. A man that I met in the fall named Eberhard Gruner, he's a famous photographer that has done years of wildlife photography in Kenya and Alaska. He said, Brad, there's these really amazing bracelets that the Maasai tribe makes in Kenya. You should see if you can get some of those. So I sent the message out to Martha, and in the end, they mailed about 120 of these bracelets to us about 3 months ago or so. How the bracelets are working is that when the Iditarod starts this year, since the Sheba kids are not going to be there this year, I have a ticket to the meet and greet. I'm going to meet every dog musher on the Iditarod Trail on the 27th of February. I'm going to be giving one of these bracelets to every musher with a little note and say, can you take this with you on the Iditarod race this year to honor the spirit of those kids in Nairobi, Kenya? And Iditarod's all about international friendship and cool stuff like that. So from that, nobody was giving money, right? We needed money for passports, for visas, for plane tickets, these kinds of things. Kind of where it's at now, our goal now is to get kids from Nairobi to the 26 Iditarod, so roughly a year from now. To do that, we have to raise a minimum of $25,000 US. That's a bare minimum that would cover plane ticket costs. Once they're in Alaska, if all the donations that were ready for 25, if those are still honored in 26, we largely have it kind of covered for them once they arrive. I mean, Alaskans are very generous and they're very excited about work, and they're just really good people up there. With all due respect, but at the slums of Nairobi, Kenya, I mean, what they've done has inspired and touched schools like all over the world. And I'm just so humbled and so honored to be an ambassador of that project and to push it forward.